basically just a large version of a short I made about Israel's final solutions. And so, with this one, as we already know, Israel had already bombed refugee camps in the Middle East that hold Palestinians and others alike. Um, so this is a little weird. So Israel should make Gaza look like Auschwitz Museum, head counsel says. David Azoulay, head of the Metula Council, proposed sending all Gazans to refugee camps in Lebanon and flattening the whole strip so it becomes an empty museum like Auschwitz. Israel should be sending Palestinian Gazans fleeing the fighting to refugee camps in Lebanon, with the entire Gaza Strip being emptied and leveled and turned into a museum like an Auschwitz concentration camp in Poland. Metula Council head David Azoulay told 103 FM, quote, after October 7th, instead of urging people to go south, we should direct them to the beaches. The Navy can transport them to the shores of Lebanon, where there are already sufficient refugee camps. Then a security strip should be established from the sea to the Gaza border fence, completely empty. As a reminder of what was once there, it should resemble the Auschwitz concentration camp. End quote. He said in an interview with Ben Caspit and Yanin Magal, quote, tell everyone in Gaza to go to the beaches. Navy ships should load the tourists into the shores of Lebanon. The entire Gaza Strip should be emptied and leveled flat, like in Auschwitz. Let it become a museum, showcasing the capabilities of the State of Israel and dissuading anyone from living in the Gaza Strip. This is what should be done to give them a visual representation. October 7th massacre was a, quote, second Holocaust. Quote, what occurred on October 7th was a second Holocaust. Lebanon already has refugee camps, and that's where they should go, end quote. Azoulay said, and goes on to say, we should leave Gaza desolate and destroyed to serve as a museum, demonstrating the madness of the people who live there. Okay. Is that what they really think of Auschwitz? So I don't know how I feel about that. Like, what is this statement? The madness of the people who live there? Like, were there specifically Nazi residents in Auschwitz? Like, I'm asking seriously. I know it might sound dumb, but, like, I'm pretty sure he's not talking about the Jewish people in Auschwitz. That would be pretty weird. Alright. Okay, hold on. Sorry about that, guys. Just later, he clarified his stance about the situation up north. Quote, Hezbollah is observing the situation in the south, and we don't address it properly. They will see it as a weakness. No matter how strong terrorism may be, we cannot live in the fear or uproot people from their homes. We must act decisively, end quote. Azoulay finished the interview by saying, quote, the displaced residents of the north deserve to know when and how they will return home. We don't want war or casualties. However, I don't believe Hezbollah will surrender peacefully. Yes, people don't really want to just take in random residents or immigrants generally, even though there isn't a space issue necessarily, it's an infrastructure issue, and the people sending them know this. They know strife and chaos will ensue. That's pretty insane. Okay, so again, uh, I read this in the short already, but this is absolutely insane. It's pretty obvious there is full-blooded Nazi rhetoric happening uh, against the Gazan people, as you shall see.
שולט על עזה. חמאס הוא לא האויב, אלא עזה חושב חמאס. לכן, חמאס לא הוא האויב, אלא עזה הוא האויב. עכשיו, ברגע שמשנים טרמינולוגיה של האירוע, תפיסת עולם הוא שונה, הגדרת אויב קודם כל הוא שונה.
I gotta rewind.
הוא שולט על עזה. חמאס הוא לא האויב, אלא
So obviously,
עזה חושב חמאס.
Gaza has Hamas in it, so I don't know, like I'm pretty sure that's obvious. Or Gaza has Hamas in it, yeah.
עכשיו, ברגע שמשנים טרמינולוגיה של האירוע, תפיסת עולם הוא שונה, הגדרת אויב קודם כל הוא שונה, אין משמעות להקש בגג.
It sounds like he's even talking about changing the rhetoric of how you talk about them to that of extermination. So this is already a stage of genocide that he's just unmasking. Like, I don't even get it.
משמעות לתת נון צדק מי יצא, לתת שכונה מי יצא. זה נקרא לשטח. אתה אומר, מה הייתי עושה? רק לשטח. כמה שיותר גופות. כי אישה שם היא אויב. תינוק שם הוא אויב. כיתה באלף הוא אויב. חמוש חמאס הוא אויב. אישה...
Okay. You pretty much get the point with this. There's just broader, sickening things. Oh, Jesus. Damn it. Kind of exited me out of that. Alright. Alright, so that's obviously really twisted. There's like a full mask just dropping to the ground, breaking into like thousands of pieces with that one. Alright, so this is basically the artificial transfer through the genocide, what I would call the ghost economy, or by taking in the disenfranchised people who lost their lives and making them go back to work, essentially. Okay. An Israel ministry in a concept paper proposes transferring Gaza civilians to Egypt's Sinai. So every time I heard people talk about this, I thought they said Egypt's cyanide. I don't know. That's just how my hearing works. Okay. Jerusalem, AP. An Israeli government ministry has drafted a wartime proposal to transfer the Gaza Strip's 2.3 million people to Egypt's Sinai Peninsula, drawing condemnation from the Palestinians and worsening tensions from Cairo. Okay, first of all, this is already like omitting the fact that like thousands, like 20,000, more than 30,000 people are dead, so it's way less than 2 million now. Okay. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office played down the report compiled by the Intelligence Ministry as a hypothetical exercise, quote, a concept paper, but its conclusions deepened long-standing Egyptian fears that Israel wants to make Gaza into Egypt's problem, and revived for Palestinian memories of their greatest trauma, the uprooting of hundreds of thousands of people who fled or were forced from their homes during the fighting surrounding Israel's creation in 1948. Quote, we are against transfer to any place in any form, and we consider it a red line that we will not allow to be crossed, Nabil Abu Redani, spokesman for Palestinian President Mohammed Abbas, said of the report. Quote, what happened in 1948 will not be allowed to happen again. Aimed at preserving security for Israel. The document is dated October 13th, 6 days after Hamas militants killed more than 1,400 people in southern Israel. Oh. Wait a second. This is weirdly... A mass deportation, Abu Revin said, would be tantamount... Hold on, guys. be tantamount to declaring a new war. 6 days after Hamas militants killed more than 1,400 people in southern Israel and took over 400 hostages in an attack that provoked a devastating Israeli war in Gaza. It was first published by Sika Mogamit, a local news site. In its report, the Intelligence Ministry, a junior ministry that concludes research but does not set policy, offered three alternatives. Quote, to effect a significant change in the civilian reality in the Gaza Strip in light of the Hamas crimes that led to the Sword of Iron War, end quote. The document's authors deemed this alternative to be the most desirable for Israel's security. The document proposes moving Gazans' civilian population to tent cities in northern Sinai, then building permanent cities in an undefined humanitarian corridor. A security zone would be established inside Israel to block the displaced Palestinians from entering. So basically, another open air prison. Yeah. The report did not say what would become of Gaza once its population is cleared out. Egypt's foreign ministry did not immediately report to a request for comment on the report, but Egypt has made clear throughout this latest war that it does not want to take in a wave of Palestinian refugees. Egypt has long feared that Israel wants to force a permanent expulsion of Palestinians into its territory, as happened during the war surrounding Israel's independence. Egypt ruled Gaza between 1948 and 1967 when Israel captured the territory, along with the West Bank and East Jerusalem. The vast majority of Gazans' populations are the descendants of Palestinian refugees uprooted from what is now Israel. Okay, so I think I read an aspect of this already, but so this would be the article that I read about the ethnic cleansing. You could find that in my genocide playlist. So just so you know, you can find a lot of my main videos in my playlist now. Okay. So this is pretty sad. And I believe this is a scheme just to, once the Palestinians are being forced to migrate, you create an image within the flattened data of demographic information, and so now they will be known as looting and creating civil order. You know, this is what we'll just know about them now. Okay. Gaza residents raid food warehouses as civil order disintegrates, a UN says. Israeli reportedly conducting airstrikes near hospitals in northern Gaza. So, to my knowledge, this is being framed as civil order is being destroyed because of warehouses being raided, but there's airstrikes happening. So you tell me who's being more barbaric here. Okay. Thousands of people in Gaza pillaged wheat, flour, and other food supplies from United Nations warehouses, a UN agency said on Sunday, warning that civil order was starting to disintegrate in the besieged enclave. Israeli military forces expanded their ground operations in the Gaza Strip on Saturday, with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announcing that the war with the Hamas militant group was entering a second stage. Israeli warplanes conducted airstrikes early Sunday near the Shifa Hospital in Gaza City, in northern Gaza, residents said after Israel claimed Hamas has a command post under the facility, the Associated Press reported. I remember seeing a video of that propaganda, actually, and it is true, there are war tunnels, but they acted like it was a whole facility, literally underneath it. Okay. Israel says more residents in Gaza have heeded its orders to flee to the south, but hundreds of thousands remain in the north. According to the Palestinian Red Crescent Society, a local humanitarian organization, the Israeli military on Sunday morning issued a warning regarding another hospital, calling on the NGOs to, quote, immediately evacuate Al Qaeda hospitals in the Gaza Strip as it was going to be bombarded, end quote. There have been, quote, raids 50 meters away from the hospitals, PRCS wrote on X. The Al-Quds Hospital, also in northern Gaza, had already received a similar notice since the start of Israel-Hamas conflict. But Palestinians say the facility cannot be evacuated as it hosts an intensive care unit and children in incubators, as well as many displaced Palestinians. The Israeli forces have so far refrained from directly hitting the hospital after Physicians for Human Rights Israel, a doctors group, said it filed a petition with Israel's Supreme Court claiming that Al-Quds Hospital could not be evacuated. Israel warplanes attacked more than 450 Hamas targets overnight, the Israel Defense Force (IDF) said while more troops entered Gaza. Israel has been bombing the Gaza Strip since October 7th. Hamas attacks that killed 1,400 people and saw 230 people taken as hostages. So, for the most part, this is just an excuse to displace the Palestinians more. Like, I don't know how they plan on moving them out, like, in an orderly fashion to where they want to go, like, directly. Like, if they're dispersed across the Gaza Strip, it doesn't make sense they could, like, herd them unless they arrest them all individually. Okay. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan on Sunday defended Israel's campaign against Hamas amid mounting criticism of the Israeli military siege of Gaza. Quote, what a lot of people are calling for is just a stop to Israeli military action against terrorists, period. Just stop, no more. Israel cannot go after terrorists who conducted this largest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust, end quote, Sullivan said in an interview on CBS Face the Nation program. Quote, we have taken the position that Israel has the right to defend itself against terrorist attacks, he said. And yet there's nobody saying you shouldn't defend yourself, and that they're just using the Jews and the Holocaust as a body shield, essentially, to continue to destroy the Palestinians. That's all that is, honestly. Sullivan said the U.S. sees, quote, an elevated risk of this conflict spreading to other parts of the region. We are doing everything in our power to deter and prevent that, end quote, he said. NGO Save the Children has warned that 1 million children in Gaza could die as a result of the Israeli bombing and from prolonged power shortages and a lack of critical medical supplies. Israeli airstrikes were reportedly carried out earlier in the vicinity of the Shifa hospital and the Indonesia hospital in northern Gaza. The Israeli military had no immediate comment when asked about reports of strikes near Shifa, the AP reported. The UN General Assembly on Friday adopted a resolution calling for an immediate, durable, and sustained humanitarian truce leading to a cessation of hostilities, end quote. The Israeli government dismissed the UN resolution, saying Israel will continue to defend itself. Quote, Israel will do what must be done to eradicate Hamas capabilities, said Gilad Ardan, the Israeli ambassador to the UN. Hamas launched its attack on Israel on October 7th, killing over 1,400 people. Israel has retaliated with daily airstrikes on the blockaded Palestinians enclave, killing an estimated 7,000 Palestinians in Gaza, according to the Hamas-run Ministry of Health. Okay.